Hi, I'm Chris from Novation, and we're here at Musikmesse 2013. And it's a very exciting time for Novation because we've just announced the brand new Bass Station 2, which is an analog mono synth. Taking the original idea of the original bass station, a very popular bass station, we've brought this new idea into the 21st century. The great thing about the Bass Station 2 is that it's a completely analog signal path. So this means that we get a true analog synth sound. One of the other great things about the bass station is that we also are able to capture and store our patches as snapshots of the sound. So on the actual bass station itself, we have two oscillators. We also have a third sub-oscillator, which is linked to oscillator 1. In the oscillator section itself, which we have here, we have 4 different waveforms. So we can choose between sine wave, triangle, sawtooth, and a variable pulse width oscillator. We have pitch control for the oscillators here, so we have a coarse control and a fine control as well. And we can add some envelope and LFO modulation to the pitch of the oscillator as well. Next to the oscillators, we have our mixer. In the mixer section, we have control over oscillator 1 and 2. We also have another volume control here, and this controls the volume of the white noise, also of the ring modulator, but also it can control the volume of an external input that can be fed directly into the bass station. The external input would then be passed through to the filter and to the effects section on the bass station. And in the filter section, we have an original modelling on the classic bass station, and also another filter type, which is a ladder filter, which we've called acid. And this is reminiscent of sort of TB303 type of sounds as well. With the filter, we have a nice big control for the cutoff, so it's easily reachable to grab control. We have an overdrive, which we can then feed directly into the frequency, into the filter itself. Obviously a resonance control. But we also have some modulation capabilities with the filter, and this can be fed from LFO2 or again from the envelope generator for the modulation envelope. Underneath the filter we have two effects. The effects are a distortion effect, which will add extra harmonic and really kind of make the sound nice, crunchy and dirty. But alongside that, we also have an oscillator filter modulator. Basically, this takes the oscillator 2 and can modulate the frequency on the filter with that. So it's a kind of an FM modulation style effect. On the envelope side of things, we have two envelopes. We have an amplitude envelope and a modulation envelope, and we can control those using these faders here. Next to that, we also have additional modulation through two LFOs. LFO1, as I mentioned, controls the pitch and the oscillators, and LFO2 can then be freely assigned to the filter or to the pulse width. With the LFOs as well, we have a number of different waveforms. We have triangle, sawtooth, square, and we also have a sample and hold. Another interesting feature that we have on the Bass Station 2 is in the Arpeggiator section. In the Arpeggiator, we have the standard Arpeggiator control, so we can go up and down. We also have different rhythms that we can apply to that as well, so we can have up to 32 different rhythms applied to the arpeggiation itself. But one of the really nice features on the bass station is the inclusion of a step sequencer. With the step sequencer, we can sequence up to 32 separate steps, and we can actually store up to 4 different sequences on the actual keyboard itself. So we can record them in, and then we have instant access to 4 different step sequences. There are a number of other functions that we can use with the bass station, but we've tried to keep the top panel as nice and as friendly as possible, and obviously give it that nice analog synth feel. But we have other controls, and these are laid out under the keys themselves. So for example, we can do things like we could assign to the modulation wheel the LFO, the second LFO to the filter frequency. We can use aftertouch on the keyboard, for example, to control, again, the filter frequency or LFO speed. So we have a number of additional functions that are actually on key presses, so we can use the function button and press the key to actually reach those. On the back of the Bass Station 2, we also can see that we are bus powered. This allows us to plug directly into our computer. Obviously there is a power supply available with the Bass Station as well, but the fact that we can bus power an analog synth is really cool. Alongside it being bus powered, we can transfer MIDI data this way, and although we have an analog synth on the top, each of these encoders and sliders will also transmit MIDI data, MIDI CC data. We have two MIDI ports, a MIDI input and a MIDI output. And we also have a sustain section and also an input for our external inputs as well. So there we are, the brand new Novation Bass Station 2. We're very excited that we have been able to bring this to Messe, and it's an analog synth for the 21st century. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Can you play us?
Yeah, I'll play some sounds. Yeah, of course, yeah. Let's get some.